Hey, Kraken fans, what's going on? Everett Fitzhugh here, team broadcaster for your Seattle Kraken. And I want to welcome you into our second Fansgiving presented this year by Kraken Rum. Thank you so much for joining us here. And we're going to have some fun today. We're going to meet a ton of new members from our hockey ops staff. I'm also going to be hosting a cooking show for the very first time in my life. So we'll see how it's going to go. We're going to start off here in a little bit. We're going to meet our new head strength and conditioning coach. We're going to go right in to an interview with Tim Ohashi along with Mike Bowie. We'll meet Namita Namdekar, who is our senior analytics analyst for the Seattle Kraken. And then we're going to end up today with Ron Francis and Robert Cron, a talk about hockey. The World Juniors are coming up. Got to get that team picked. We'll see how they're doing everything in this world of COVID. So thank you so much for joining us here. Let's have some fun and get cooking, shall we? Marketing department for the Seattle Kraken for getting that one going. Get your thoughts on how everything's going.
Well, I missed the first part. You were muted for a little bit. I apologize.
Well, that's the beauty of live TV right now, trying to get this done. I just wanted to welcome you into the Kraken kitchen as we get set to make this Kraken crisp. See how you're doing. I know that you're recently hired here as the conditioning coach back home, as you're from Seattle, from the Washington area. How does it feel to be able to get back home, get back to your roots where you grew up here in Lacey, Washington?
When I left about 7 years ago, I didn't think that there was any opportunity to come back. And the fact that I get to come back to the area where my entire family is and work for an amazing pro organization is, I mean, I couldn't be more blessed.
And, you know, you and I were talking earlier today about how you've spent the last few years in the South at North Carolina State. So being down South and now coming back home, I feel like this is a perfect tie-in. You've had some really good Southern food for the past 6 years, and now you're coming back to the Northwest where you're going to have some even better food up here. So I want to get right into this recipe. But before we start, why don't you give me and give the fans some of your favorite recipes, maybe some of your favorite dishes that you've had in your time down south?
Any barbecue down there is just absolute money. City Barbecue was a spot that I frequented. I think I went about 30 times in the first 30 days I was there. There as much as possible. You know, just everything rally food was amazing. So yeah, it was a great place to eat anywhere.
It's funny you mentioned City Barbecue. I actually just moved here from Cincinnati myself. So City Barbecue was really big up there in Montgomery and also. So I can definitely feel you on the barbecue. So I want to get right into this recipe here, and we'll get those ingredients on the screen. So those of you who are following along at home right now, this is super, super easy, super, super simple to make. I like to think that I'm pretty decent in the kitchen, but even I couldn't screw this up. So we're going to break this down into our toppings and into our berry filling. So first for our topping, again, very simple. You're just going to need 1 cup of old-fashioned rolled oats. We've got these right here. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of some granulated sugar, another 3/4 of a cup of some light brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a little dash of salt, and 2/3 cup of some unsalted butter melted, which you can see right there. So Nate, we'll start by just taking our rolled oats right here. We'll toss that into the bowl. We'll take our flour, same thing. We'll mix all that in the bowl, get that all out of there. And while we're doing this, you know, you had one exciting trip to get out here. And you were telling us earlier that the whole family piled in the car 10 days across country. Take us through that trip and just some of the highlights of carrying everybody across country.
Well, first of all, I just want to caveat that we were extremely safe during the travels, always masked up and socially distanced. But, we stopped in Memphis to see where my son was born. We hit up Chattanooga and the Dollywood area, and then just drove kind of all the way through the South, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. So you're able to see the Grand Canyon. But in the car for a long time with two little boys, 8 and 6. But they did well with it.
So it's interesting because whenever you're moving, obviously it's not easy. Obviously during COVID, things have kind of taken a turn here. But to be able to do that with your family, what was their reaction to not only you getting the job, but saying, hey, by the way, we're about to take a 4,000-mile cross-country road trip? And what were some of the highlights? You said you went to Dollywood and the Grand Canyon. How did they take that trip being in the car for that long?
I mean, the way that they look at things is just they're kind of like me. They live day by day. So the kids were just excited about being able to stop and do some fun stuff along the way. Not having to be in school, online was fun for them as well. We got to see some family in Oklahoma, and they love family. It's one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to come back here is to be closer to family. So, but yeah, tons of highlights. Seeing the Grand Canyon with them was unbelievable, and we'll never forget it. It was a great trip.
So I'm still mixing these dry ingredients here, and I feel like the perfect word I can use for this is glumpy, I guess. I don't know what yours is looking like right now.
About the same, yeah.
About the same. So I think glumpy is a really good word. So I think that's mixed up pretty well. So now, again, very, very simple. We'll set this aside for a second, and then we're going to get our berry mixture in here. So once again, very, very simple. Take your berries. You got 4.5 cups of berries. You'll toss that in there. Get the rest of those out. So Nate, I was saying earlier in the show that, with you being, strength and conditioning and peak of physical fitness, I feel like the holidays, is this when you just go all out and cheat? Am I allowed to cheat, or do I have to stick to that diet that I've not been sticking to anyway?
I mean, I think no calories count at holiday time, but you got to train even harder. I think it's one of those things. If you commit to eating poorly, then you gotta pay for it on the back end by doing the work to get yourself right.
So I've mixed up all these berries. I've mixed in my berries. I've mixed in my flour, my sugar, my vanilla extract, my salt, and so you have a very interesting story, I think, in the fact that you've spent the last 5 years in North Carolina at North Carolina State University, and for you to be able to work the Olympic sports there, now you're coming to Seattle, your first foray into the world of hockey. How excited are you to take on this new challenge of working in a sport that you haven't had direct contact with in a professional capacity before?
I have such a tremendous respect for the athletes that play the sport because I think it's so highly skilled, and just the fact that you can go do a skill that a lot of people can't, skate, and then actually play a sport at a high level. Really, really getting to know, what makes these athletes tick, understand the culture of the sport, and making sure that we're doing the things to get them prepared at a high level. I mean, I couldn't be more excited. I wish there were guys here right now to train. But, for now, we're just going to keep working on our processes, getting to know other coaches and staff, and really build this the right way before everybody gets here.
Does your process change at all, having worked with football and basketball and all these other sports? Does the process change now that you're in a hockey environment, or is it all pretty much as long as guys are as strong as possible, as long as guys aren't getting hurt, that's the important piece of this whole puzzle?
I think you start with that mentality where you got to make them athletic, move well, make sure any previous injuries that they've had, you deal with those type of things. But beyond that, you have to understand the sport. You have to understand what you're preparing them for, because this is the best of the best in the world. You need to do what gets them prepared for the sport of hockey. So understanding, again, everything about the sport, energy system, movement, and all that. Yeah, we definitely going to make this hockey specific for sure.
We're here with head strength and conditioning coach for your Seattle Kraken, Nate Brookerson. Be sure to drop some questions into the chat there. Get to know him a little bit more. Get to know all of our guests a little bit more today. So I finished my dry toppings. I finished my berries. So now let's get this put together. So we've got our 8x8 pan. Again, very, very simple. We'll just throw that into the bowl and not into the stove. As it was, we did a couple of dry runs of this earlier today. And when I mean dry, I mean really dry. Like this was, I've watched a lot of Food Network, a lot of HGTV during the COVID quarantine. So I feel like I could beat Bobby Flay right now. I don't know what my name would be, but I feel like I could easily beat Bobby Flay. I just have a bunch of these random ingredients now sitting in my kitchen. So, so we get our berries in there. We'll take our glumpy oat topping, spoon that in there. And again, you can just kind of get it in there nice and evenly. So Nate, I guess one question that I've loved asking people and talking to folks about as they start their journey here in Seattle is, what was your initial impression on the brand launch? I mean, obviously the Kraken, the colors, the nickname, the logo, everything was so unique. And this organization is all about doing things differently and doing things that haven't been done before. What was your initial reaction just to all of the hoopla and all of the fanfare behind just such an awesome brand launch?
I mean, being from Seattle, there's, that sentiment of, I feel like every team name is really important to the fans between, Seahawks, Mariners, Sonics in the past. And I was here last year for a conference and just driving around town, you see all these like different logos and names that were out there. And I had no idea, I didn't know if a bunch of professional sports had come in, but it was everybody's kind of, unique take on what they thought the logo should be. So, when this came out, just seeing like the story behind it, the whys behind it, obviously it's absolutely slick. The primary, I love the secondary logo as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
what shirt you got on, by the way?
this marketing department has done a phenomenal job, and this is. I know there's going to be a really cool story behind everything that's going to come along, whether it's the mascot or whatever else is going to come along because this staff this year.
So I'm going to pop this in the oven here for about 45 minutes at 350 degrees. We'll put this in the oven. Oh man, it already smells good. Like it didn't, again, that glumpiness you kind of got a little bit there, but it did smell pretty good. Last question before I get you out of here, Nate. So you obviously, like I said, are from here. You play college football at Central Washington. So what are you looking forward to most about coming back home, about being back here in Seattle? Is there a favorite restaurant or a favorite place that you used to love going to growing up that you're excited to get back to?
It's honestly just being back to family. Just in this industry, you don't have the opportunity a lot of times to be able to do the job that you want to do around the people that you want to do it with. So, I mean, that's beyond the most important thing to me right now. I mean, this is coming to you from my in-laws' house. They graciously let me take over their kitchen, and again, just being able to see people all the way back from high school and college days. So really reconnecting with a lot of old friends and colleagues.
So we've got one question before we let you go here. I lied to you. One more question from one of our fans who just followed in. And I think it's a perfect way to wrap this up. So we're doing this virtual cooking show, right? We're trying to stay safe during COVID. We're trying to make sure that we can get out of this. And next Thanksgiving, we'll be back to having 50 people around, our tables. But I want to get your thoughts on training during COVID. It can be hard to get to a rink. It can be hard to get to a weight room. What do you recommend for athletes and just maybe people in general who want to get out there, who want to work out, who want to train, but may not have the access to a private rink like an NHL team does?
I think it's okay to be as simple as you can possibly be. It's okay to repeat the same workouts over and over again, even if it's boring. It's okay if you're only doing 20 minutes a day. As long as you're consistently doing it, you're going to get a lot more benefit out of just getting up and getting moving. And over time, you're going to find the things that you're going to stick with doing. Keep doing those things. Again, it's okay to keep repeating things. It doesn't have to be novel, and it doesn't have to be, extra exciting. Just do a little bit of something every single day.
So you're one of the many hockey ops hires that Ron Francis has made here over the past little bit. We've brought in scouts, we've brought in athletic trainers, video analysts. So, you're one of a lot of guys who have an opportunity to really put their stamp on this team. Have you had an opportunity to talk to a lot of your new coworkers and some things about what you guys are excited to get done here as we inch closer to puck drop next year?
Yeah, as soon as I saw the announcement, the first couple of people I reached out to were Jeff Camilio and Mike Bowie, just to have a conversation, to connect with them, get to know them as people first, because we're going to be around each other a lot. Jeff made the comment. He's like, in season, you're going to see me more than your wife. So I'm going to be real close and connected with them. And this is just the nice part is you don't usually get to go into a situation where you don't have to worry about the job right away. Now it's the preparation for exactly how it's going to look. So spending time with them to know how are we going to operate and making sure we're filling in each other's gaps and doing things the right way.
Seattle Kraken head strength and conditioning coach Nate Brookerson, thank you so much for joining us here today. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. Once again, we want to make sure that everyone tosses some questions down in that chat. We'll get to as many of them as possible. Nate, happy Thanksgiving. Tell the family we said, hey, welcome back home on behalf of the Seattle Kraken, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Nate Brookerson, the head strength and conditioning coach for your Seattle Kraken. We're going to toss it up to a quick break, the NHL group chat video from the Kraken launch. We had a phenomenal time launching that video and launching this Kraken brand, and I think a lot of other teams and a lot of other PR departments around the league took notice. Come on back. We're going to have some pretty big hardware next up in our studio. Come on back.
Want to thank Nate Brookerson once again for joining us, and it already smells amazing in here. So we're going to come back to that Kraken Crisp at the end of our Fansgiving. A little bit of a secret. We actually have one already made. So we're going to taste the one how it's supposed to taste that our fabulous production crew gets put together. And then we're going to taste the one that I made, and hopefully it matches up. I've got a lot riding on this today. So today's my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And I told her that I wasn't going to embarrass her with my cooking skills. So hopefully what she taught me in the kitchen growing up back in Detroit reigns true here today. We're going to keep it going right now. We've got another couple of really good guests, and some amazing hardware is about to head on into the studio once we get back from this next video.
Ohashi, along with Mike Bowie, the new head video analyst, as well as the new head athletic trainer for your Seattle Kraken. Fellas, welcome into our virtual Fansgiving. How's everything going?
Great. Thanks for having us, Everett. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And again, I know you guys are still out on East Coast time, so it's almost 8:00 out that way right now. How is the end of the week going for you guys? And I know you're in transition to be moving out to Seattle. We'll start with you, Mike. How is everything going in that regard?
Yeah, let me just say it's finally Friday, man. We're doing all right. We're doing all right. Just unprecedented trying to get across the country in the middle of a pandemic. Nothing to it, right?
You're saying it's not easy to move during COVID and get from one Washington to the other with relative ease?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So I think what's really, really cool about you two, and I'm excited to explore this relationship. So you guys have worked together for some years, and you guys are now together again here with the Seattle Kraken. You guys have a tie and something that not a lot of people have. You guys have a couple of Stanley Cup rings between the two of you. And I want to start with you, Tim, being able to be on that Washington Capitals team and experience that Stanley Cup. I mean, that's something that a very small number of people get to experience. What was that like for you, being able to be with that team and go through that Stanley Cup experience?
It was unbelievable. Obviously, I think I can say this freely because I haven't had a wedding day yet, and I said so. It was the best day of my life, and
okay. Smart. I like how you practiced that, by the way.
It was a lot of years of heartbreak leading up to that. It just culminated in such a good feeling, and to do it in my hometown too was obviously added a layer of how special it was.
So, Mike, you got to DC about a year before that Cup, and we were talking to you two earlier today during a bit of a rehearsal, and you guys were kind of going back and forth about who had more to do with that Stanley Cup, either you or Tim, but it still had to be really special for you to know that your stamp has been put on that team, and now your name is on the Stanley Cup.
Oh, it's incredible. I get goosebumps even still just talking about it. And I can say I have had a wedding day and had 2 children, and it ranks right up there, Timmy. It's a pretty special moment.
So, Mike, with you now coming to Seattle, you have an opportunity to build your athletic training department. And we just talked with Nate Brookerson, who was the head strength and conditioning coach here for the Seattle Kraken. Have you had any talks with him and starting to prepare that strength and conditioning, that athletic training plan? A lot of those behind the scenes positions that we don't really see, a lot of work goes in there. What are you planning and what are some of the things that you're doing now from a Kraken standpoint to get set for next summer and ultimately next season?
Oh, geez, that's a loaded question. We're doing anything and everything, my man.
Yeah.
I've had some great conversations with Nate. Our areas obviously have a lot of overlap, so we look forward to working very intricately together. We've got a great facility, it looks like, to work out of, so we're real excited to do that. And I think the biggest thing is just the opportunity to do it the Seattle way. Like, he's coming from an extensive background, and I've been through a couple different teams and leagues in hockey, so we've got a great opportunity to just put our minds together and make it work.
You mentioned your path, and I think you've taken a very interesting path, and one that is taken by a lot of players. You've been to the ECHL, you've been to the American Hockey League, you've got some great hockey towns in your vein with Greenville and Springfield and Portland, Maine, and just some of those lessons that you've learned getting in those minor leagues, working with those smaller budgets, to now being able to help you prepare yourself for this next challenge after DC. What do you feel are some of those big reasons why you've been able to perform at such a high level, and what are some of those lessons that you can take with you from the minor leagues, from DC, and now bring them here to Washington State?
Yeah, you just really learn never to take anything for granted, because you don't know what's coming next. I've been fortunate enough, like you said, to be on some very good teams, and then I've also had the misfortune, I guess you'd say, of being on some not so great teams. So I've got a little bit of a soft spot for some of these guys that are usually on the bubble, that are up and down between leagues, because I've been there. I know how it goes, and it's a little bit different when you're on a charter flight eating a steak on your way home than a soggy chicken parm sandwich on a 5-hour bus to Worcester.
What do they call that? 4 wheels to 2 wings. I think we're all excited to get to there. We've got a question, and I'm going to set this one perfectly up for you, Tim, because with you being a Washington, D.C. native and to be able to watch your hometown team lift the Stanley Cup, Joe Bulber wants to know, what's better, Washington, D.C. or Washington State?
Oh, you're really setting me up on that one, Joe. I'm going to play diplomatic on this one and say that they're both unbelievable, and I'm really proud to be from Washington, D.C., but couldn't be more excited to be moving and consider myself a resident of Washington State as of next month.
Head athletic trainer Tim Ohashi joining us here. Head athletic trainer Mike Bowie, head video analyst Tim Ohashi joining us here. And Tim, I read an amazing article on NHL.com about you a couple of weeks ago, and I really am just fascinated about the role that your dad has played in your life. And I think what was so cool is over the past couple of years with you in Washington, D.C., your dad's had an opportunity to come on a couple of team road trips, and he's done something pretty impressive twice on 2 of those trips. Take us through that story and just, how your dad kind of embodies that whole elementary school, well, my dad can beat up your dad any day of the week.
Yeah, so we were really lucky in Washington. Both Mike and I were able to have both of our dads join us on a couple of trips, and it's obviously a privilege and a pleasure to have that happen. So thanks to that organization, obviously, for doing it. And yeah, when first time my dad came on the trip, he was kind of the new guy, the new face. It was a veteran team. Most of the dads were kind of familiar faces at that point. And so some of the players were asking me, well, what's he like? What's he do? And word kind of spread around that my dad's a 5th degree black belt who has a bit of a push-up regimen to kind of stay fit, even in his advancing age, I guess I'll say, to be nice to him. But it went around. Tom Wilson really provoked the situation, and it turned into a guarantee that if we won that night in Dallas, he would do 100 push-ups right on the floor of the locker room. And
100
of them. So he got down there. The last 15 or so, I don't know if your gym teacher would have given you credit for them, but he got him done, and then the guys all lifted him up on their shoulders. It was pretty cool. I got the picture framed up and signed by all the players, gave it to him for Father's Day, and that was a special one for me. But with that being said, even though I'm pretty sure my dad could beat up Boo's dad, Jeff, I have to throw a shout out to my mom too, because there's no way I'd be here without her, even if she probably couldn't do 100 push-ups. She might tell you she did, though.
Look at that. Just spread the love around. And again, I love this relationship that you two have, the friendship that you two guys have. And I think for you guys, how does this help you adjust to a new city, adjust to a new organization? You're building from the ground up, but knowing that you have that familiarity, not only with your families, obviously, but with the fact that, Mike, you've worked with Tim and vice versa in the past, you guys kind of already have that leg up in some areas.
No, I'd say just what you said there. It's nice to have just any kind of familiarity when you get to a new city, and this would be a first for me. I know a lot of these guys are from here. My wife is actually from the Pacific Northwest, so it's a bit of a homecoming for her. But I'm a stranger coming into a new town, so it's nice to have somebody familiar face to look to and turn to if I need to.
So I alluded to this a little bit earlier, and now I want to go into it a bit more, talking about that move, getting the wife and kids and everyone out here. We'll start, Mike, just that process. How excited are they to be back here in the Northwest? Again, your wife, homecoming for her, so to speak. And what's been the general reception from the family and immediate family, extended family about you getting this new opportunity here?
No, they couldn't be more excited. I don't think there's a way to even say it. We were a long while ago. We were back in Arizona when there was a couple of rumors surrounding the potential of a team, even before the franchise was named, or even before the franchise was officially coming to Seattle. And she was already poking me about putting my name in the hat for a position up there. So to have it come to fruition is unbelievable. It's going to be a good thing for us. We're real excited.
Who live out here in Seattle, and my cousin Jimmy said the exact same thing 2-3 years ago. He called my mom up one day. He's like, "Well, tell them that they have a new hockey team coming out here." And I was like, "All right, yeah, we'll see what happens." So it's interesting how family can plant the seed a little bit early and get you out here. So obviously, must have been written in the stars for you to get out here. And Tim, you said you haven't had the wedding date yet, but still doesn't make it any less pressure for you trying to relocate out to Seattle.
No, this has been a blessing. My fiance, as we've alluded to, is from the Seattle area. Her parents still live in the area. Her sister's in Portland. So this is great. I think a lot like Boo just said. Since the team got announced, I started getting the questions of, when are you going to get out here? There's going to be a hockey team. So for all the stars to kind of line up and make that happen has been great. And to tie back to your previous question, my fiance and Mike's wife are very close too, which, again, that's just one more added layer to making the transition a little bit easier.
I love, Tim, the fact that you're now in a position that is becoming so huge in the game of hockey. Video work and advanced stats and scouting, these things have been huge, major in the hockey world, especially over the past 5 years. And now that we're trying to navigate this tough time of COVID-19, how does your focus change in working with Ron Francis and working with the analytics department, the other scouts that are on right now, trying to identify some of these players? The World Juniors are right around the corner. Hopefully the NHL season's right around the corner here, January, February-ish, depending on when that starts. How is your work now going to be impacted by not being able to physically go to games and using this technology to ultimately build your department from scratch?
Yeah, it's like you said, video has really exploded in the last few years alone, and it's something that's so integral to any team's success these days that I'm probably one of the people that's a little bit less affected because so little of my work is done live. It's all on video that, we're traveling with the team itself, that everything has to be downloaded. Unlike a scout, say, that can go and watch games in different places, I have to rely on the internet and the video feeds and all of that. That for me, it's not as hard of a transition, but this has been a great opportunity with us obviously not competing in games this upcoming season, if and when it hopefully gets going. It does free me up to work with the unbelievable R&D department that we have here, the scouts, the front office, and all of Ron's team. So it's been fun. It's been a little bit different from my day-to-day, what it was in Washington when I was more facilitating the work of the coaching staff and coaches' challenges, that sort of work on a day-to-day level. So this has been a new experience and a new challenge for me.
We see the videos in the NFL all the time of the assistant coaches up in the box with the headphones on. They have the red Go phone that they can call down to the bench. Is your life as 007 like as that is in the NFL, where something goes wrong? Somebody get Tim on the phone right now. We got an issue down here. Like when you're going through games and when you're trying to communicate with the coaches on the bench, or you're trying to run some stuff down in between periods, take us through that action of the last 5 minutes of a period into the first 5 minutes of the next period, trying to get all that video cut, set, and all that.
Yeah, it's the most hectic 2.5 hours of the day, game night. Everything's so wired up these days. It's unbelievable. We're sending live video on multiple iPads to the bench. There's screens there's monitors in the bench of every building. And then we're wired up on walkie-talkies, so there's seamless communication between coaching staff on the bench and in the video room within the locker room. It's hectic. There's 7-8 computers you need to make sure are all on the same page, all have access to the video that's going to be needed, and then you have 6-7 minutes in the intermission to review the footage and make the adjustments and then communicate that to your players before they go back on the ice. So it's jam-packed, but that's the most fun part of the job, the games, and ultimately getting to win games.
And I guess, for Tim, Brandon Bryan, kind of along that same line, wants to know, is there a red phone that connects directly to the head coach, like in Commissioner Gordon's office in Batman?
Unfortunately, no. It's just a walkie-talkie from in our room with an earpiece. Usually it's an assistant coach that would be wired up, and you can kind of see them. They look like Secret Service agents when they go to their wrist and kind of talk to us that way.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. I want to get a couple more questions here for each of you. I want to start with you, Mike, because you and I have both come up through the ECHL, and we've got a history in minor league hockey. And I want to get, just for my edification, just so I can know what's coming, and then I think to tell the fans about the different worlds of the hockey leagues. How has your responsibility and how has your life and I guess your fun changed since going from a great city like Greenville, South Carolina, to Portland, Maine, to Springfield, to Washington, now here to Seattle? I mean, you've really taken that whole train and have now gotten to that place with the brand new expansion team.
Yeah, I can tell you. I guess it just depends on the way you look at it. Had a lot of fun in the East Coast League. It was definitely a lot more pressure as you kind of move up through the ranks, and yeah, a little bit, I'd say. So as you get to this level, it's the fun never really goes away. That's kind of why we do it. Just the camaraderie of being around the guys and being on each other. And we're like, I think I heard Nate say earlier, we see each other more than we see our wives when we get into season. So we do have a lot of fun, but as you get to this level, things just get a little bit more intense. You deal with a little bit higher salary cap than you do in those lower level leagues, but nothing really changes. Like, hockey's hockey.
You mentioned the wife, you mentioned the kids, good family man. Both of you are getting set to bring the family out here. So when we're looking at the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever people may celebrate out there, take us into the Bowie household. What are a couple of traditions, a couple of staple dishes, drinks, something that every year, no matter what, we have to have, we're going to have X at our family dinner?
I don't know. Like, usually we get around Thanksgiving and it's right in the middle of hockey season on a normal schedule, so we don't get too much of it. But I don't know. Shoot, man, I'm from the Midwest. You put it in a casserole, I'll eat it.
You sound like me. We're both Michiganders, being able to throw a bunch of stuff in a pan or in a crock pot and call it dinner.
Yep. I'm also a sucker for the canned cranberries.
Oh,
just a jelly right out of the can.
You know, it's a very
don't hate on it.
It's a very thin line though, because you can go from good cranberry to like really gelatinous mess in a quick second. So Tim, take us out, man. Same question for you. In the Ohashi household, what are we eating on Thanksgiving, Christmas? What type of traditions are we looking forward to here in the coming years?
I'm a stuffing guy. It's that simple for me. Turkey's fine. A little bit overrated in my opinion. Maybe a hot take. I don't know. But I'm a big stuffing guy. I'd say that's the go-to in my household. And we make our stuffing a little bit different. It's wet. A lot of people kind of turn their heads when they hear that, but it's a moist stuffing, and we're all about it here.
Okay, so that actually brings me to one final question. I lied. This is the final question. So I am a big believer of Christmas decorations go up after Thanksgiving. If you want to celebrate Christmas, that's fine after Halloween, but then you get to eat last on Thanksgiving. Where do you guys fall in line? Are Christmas decorations okay on Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving dinner, or do we have to wait till Black Friday to put the tree up?
Oh, man. If it was up to my wife, we'd have Christmas decorations 24/7, 365. I'm a big fan of just you get what you get and you take it in order. So we go and get a tree after Thanksgiving's over, but it just depends. Right now, we're kind of up in the air. Our house is full of boxes. I got a blank wall behind me, so we'll see what happens going forward.
And Tim, when's the tree going up?
Yeah, I think generally our policy was it had to be December on the calendar to throw the tree up. That was the rule of thumb for us.
That is fantastic. See, I love Thanksgiving. I love the food. I love the family. December, like that first weekend in December, then you can put your tree up. So, fellas, this was an absolute blast. Head video analyst for your Seattle Kraken, Tim Ohashi, head athletic trainer, Mike Bowie. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Welcome to Seattle. Bring those Stanley Cup rings with you and keep them in the office, in the locker room. We're going to show those of what you can achieve here in the now better of the two Washingtons. Sorry, fellas, as we get set to start something special here in Seattle. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for joining us here.
Yeah, same to you, Everett.
All right. So we are going to take another break. And I don't know if you're like me throughout this whole pandemic, you've been glued to TikTok, and TikTok has taught me so much over these past few months. And I still don't quite understand how it works, but we've got a couple of hilarious TikTok videos and some really cool TikTok videos put together that we want to show you here. So come on back. We're going to wet our whistle a little bit, and we're going to make a very delicious Kraken rum inspired drink just in time for your socially distant Thanksgiving.
Oh, tell me we get what we deserve. Oh, we get what we deserve.
Nanda Kumar right now as we are in our Kraken Rum bar at the moment. Namita, how's everything going?
I'm doing great. How about you, Everett?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really, really well. And you and I had an opportunity to talk a bit earlier today, and we were talking just about how easy this drink is, a classic take, a perfect storm that we're about to make here for a second. And I think before we get into this, are you more of a rum person? Are you a truly person? Are you like me who loves a couple of Coors Lights after the end of the day? What's going to be your drink of choice?
So I love a good spiked seltzer, as you mentioned, but also love a good cocktail and very much miss the experience of someone making it for me and then charging too much money for it. So looking forward to our little segment here.
You and me both. And I think I feel like there's something a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Rewarding about making your own cocktail and being able to enjoy it, because you can make it as weak or as strong as you would like, and no one's going to judge you because you're sitting at home in your living room, right?
Absolutely. I think tonight we're leaning strong, but obviously everyone make your own choices.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So actually, I want to dive right into this because I've got all these ingredients sitting right here and they look delicious. And again, this is a very simple drink for those of you who are following along with us. Just like our Kraken Crisp, this is something that you can make super easily. All you're going to need is some Kraken rum. You're going to need some ginger beer. You're going to need some bitters. We've got some ice, and we have some lime as well. You can take a look at our drink cam right here. Thanks to Kraken so much for helping us out with this event, providing us some great rum and a fantastic recipe for a perfect storm. So we're going to start this out very, very simply. We're going to take our glass, and if you can see that, we actually got some Seattle Kraken rocks.
Very cool. Very cool.
So we'll fill up our glass with ice. And again, I don't know. So it's what, 5:15 here in Seattle, so 8:15 there. Yeah, we can go a little strong. Why not? We'll start with our ginger beer here. So we'll take that off. And then once we get that off, nope, there it is. Okay.
Go to the fridge.
We're going to fill that up about 3/4 of the way with your ginger beer there. So, Namita, as you're getting this set up, I think it's so fascinating, you know, the role that you are about to play here with the Seattle Kraken. So we just got off an interview with Tim Ohashi, who's the head video analyst now for the Kraken. And I think that the fact that advanced stats and video and all of these things are now so important in the game of hockey, it's no longer whoever scores the most goals, whoever can hit the hardest. There is so many more layers into this game, and that's where you come in, trying to find those advanced stats and trying to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, analyze how the game is played from an off-the-ice perspective, some things you may not see on the ice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things I like to mention, not sure how many people realize this when you're watching hockey on TV, you just see kind of the goals and time remaining in the left-hand corner. But there's a ton of data that we get from every single game, a lot of which is actually available publicly. You're talking shift level stuff that lets you know basically who's on the ice at any given point, all sorts of information about shots, where they are, do they miss the net, do they make it on goal, just tons and tons of data points that we get from every NHL game. We also get a ton of data from leagues around the world, although I will say, unfortunately, a bit less than what we get for the NHL. But really, it's just a lot of information coming from all angles, and who's gonna figure out what matters, and that's where analysts come in as part of our R&D department to really sort through all of that, build statistical models, figure out what we should take away from all of it.
We are here with Namita Nandakumar, the senior quantitative analyst for your Seattle Kraken. We're making a perfect storm. We've got our ginger beer poured, and now we're going to get into the next step. But before we do, De'Ara wants to know, what's your favorite drink? What are you having when you're celebrating a Seattle, or when you will be celebrating a Seattle Kraken win?
Honestly, I tried this earlier and it was genuinely very enjoyable. So it might be this.
Okay. So we've got our ginger beer poured. We'll grab that for you. You guys can see that right there. we'll take some bitters. We'll throw a couple of splashes of bitters in there as I get a little bit on my sleeve. No big deal. All right. So you can kind of see that color there. It's supposed to storm starting there. Perfect Storm, which is not only a fantastic movie starring Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney, and this is also where my love of the Boston accent. So we're going to open up our Kraken rum now. It calls for 1.5 ounces, which is going to be about 1.5 of the big sizes here. But again, it is Friday night, so we can, maybe we can have some fun here. So we'll grab that. And again, the trick to this one, Namita, which I found out very, very the hard way the other day, is you want to pour this nice and slowly over the ice because you're going to be able to get that perfect storm. Look at that. As it all just kind of comes together in there. That is wonderful.
That is very beautiful and definitely way better than what I just did. So.
Well, yes, so when I was trying this out the other day, I actually just kind of dumped it in there and then it just kind of mixed together and it was kind of a big letdown. So I think the fact that I was able to do this properly, fantastic. So we've got our drink here and now we're going to take a lime wedge. We're going to garnish this bad boy with the lime wedge on there.
Gotta do it. There we go.
Perfect Storm. Cheers, Namita.
Cheers.
Let's try this, see how it is. Oh, those are dangerous. Oh, that's really, really good. And for those of you who want to make this drink, maybe you're not a drinker, maybe you're not a big rum fan, that's okay. You can easily turn this into a mocktail. One simple step. Instead of using Kraken rum, you can use pineapple juice. That's it. Ginger beer, pineapple juice, some bitters, and some lime. You've got an awesome mocktail, Perfect Storm mocktail. So, Namita, we're going to get to know you now on a little bit of a personal level, and I've got a whole slew of things that I want to talk to you about, mainly the NFC East. We'll get into that in a second. But you spent the last couple of years of your career working with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that had to have been an amazing experience. Let's go back how you decided that the analytics field is something that you wanted to be involved with, and just take us through your time in Philadelphia and how you started to, I guess, find that love and that passion for this side of the business.
Sure. So I was always a big sports fan, and I grew up in the Philly area, which is actually where I am right now until I moved to Seattle early next year, which I'm definitely looking forward to. But that's how I got an early love of Philly teams. I will say my earliest team was the Eagles, and it was truly just because my dad was a Washington football fan and I wanted to annoy him. And this was a very efficient way to do it. And then through that, I really ended up loving football. And then also when the Flyers made a cup run in 2010, I was like, wait, this is so cool. And then I became a big hockey fan as well. Once I got to school, also in Philly at Penn, I was like, what do I want to do? I figured out that stats was something that I really enjoyed. But because, I was at business school, so they weren't saying like, oh, do stats so you can work for an NFL or NHL team. They were saying, do stats so you can do business, whatever that means. So first couple years of my time there, I helped with marketing research. I discovered that I really liked the research part. Okay. But then when I was able to do some projects of my own, I was like, why not do something I love? So I ended up doing some research on draft strategy in the NHL. And was able to present it at conferences, write about it a little bit. And funnily enough, the first team that was really interested in it and offered me a position was the Eagles. Just because, my former boss saw that and realized that there were a lot of ways to sort of cross-apply it across sports. And, as a lifelong Eagles fan, I was like, yes, sign me up, absolutely. But then 2 years later, I realized that the only thing cooler than working for your hometown team is working for a team that doesn't exist yet. So here we are.
So when you got that call that you were going to be a part of the Kraken front office, I mean, take us through that moment. Again, not only coming to a team that, as you said, doesn't exist yet, but an opportunity for you to dive into an entirely new sport.
Yeah, I mean, again, I had done hockey research in the past, so I knew it was something that I was going to really enjoy. But, as a big draft nerd, I mean, what's cooler than the expansion draft? So, when my now boss, Alex, when she, mentioned the role and what it would entail and, especially everything to do with the expansion draft, I was just like, that is such a once in a lifetime opportunity to have anything to do with our first ever roster that I knew it was something that I had to do.
So I'm going to let you out of here on this. We have a couple of minutes left, and I know that I teased this earlier. I'm just going to ask you point blank, what in the world is going on with the NFC East? I think you're going to have a 6-7 win team winning the division. You're an Eagles fan. Can we expect an Eagles-Seahawks NFC championship game, or is that a little bit too out of the realm of possibility?
It is true that I still have a lot of love for the Eagles. What I will say is that I think if that NFC Championship game happens, Seahawks fans will probably be thrilled about it. The NFC East is super interesting this year. It's kind of polar opposites between the East and the West. And before we get any angry hate comments, I just want to say that Russell Wilson is definitely one of my favorite quarterbacks. So no one get mad at me. I'm ready to be part of Seattle. I think I don't exactly know what's happening in the NFC East. I think one of the cool things about my job is that I have the skills to be able to write the optimization problem and figure out what's the lowest amount of wins the division winner can end with. I think the answer might be shockingly low, but I might have to see about that.
Last one, I'm going to put you on blast here because I know that your parents absolutely love the fact that you are a social media, a Twitter star. Where can people follow you on Twitter? I enjoy everyone should go on Twitter and follow Namita. Tell us where we can follow you and where we can continue to pump up those numbers.
Okay, well, it is at NN Stats, but my strong disclaimer is that I'm not giving away any Kraken secrets. We all know that. So it is a lot of football right now, and also probably too many updates on my fantasy football team. We have a very fun work league going, and I care way too much about it. So,
well, if you want a nice break from hockey, if you want a nice break from all the COVID world, again, NN Stats, a perfect place to follow. Namita, we cannot thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. Thank you so much. Go enjoy the rest of that perfect storm. Have another one. It is Friday night.
Absolutely.
Happy Thanksgiving. Cheers to you. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more down the road.
Sounds good. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, that was Namita Nandakumar, the senior quantitative analyst for your Seattle Kraken. And I cannot think of a better group of people who deserve a perfect storm more than the next people you're about to meet, the wonderful folks who are helping build the future home of your Seattle Kraken, Climate Pledge Arena.
In the construction business, tunneling is a unique operation. It's a little dirty, it's a little muddy, it's underground, but the skill set of these people and the special nature of those machines have been fine-tuned in the industry to do this type of work.
The particular reason that this is the most challenging is because we're tunneling underneath an active building. There are participants still in there completing pottery. That is the biggest difference from any other tunnel. That's huge right there. This is the first time we're really doing something like this. So we're breaking new feats in itself. Now it's trying to get an understanding is how can we help them work safely and work efficiently to complete the tunnel?
Well, we had to say how wide do we want to make it, and we decided it was important that we had two semis who could go at the same time, one in, one out. So that's what we've got here, a really efficient decision in terms of how we turn over the building from event to event. This is part of what was done in the design to make this just, again, one of the great arenas in the country, not just from it, how it looks, but how it operates.
Man, I get goosebumps every single time I see a video about the arena. I drive by the rink. I'm so excited for this building to finish up. And we're going to enter our last segment here, our last official segment. I've got an awesome person that I want you guys to meet, the new director of amateur scouting for your Seattle Kraken. Robert Cron, what's going on? Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. I know that you're in DC, so it's a bit later there, so thanks for hanging out with us. How is everything going for you? Have you started that transition out to Seattle yet? What's your timeline looking like?
So far, I'm here in DC, and for the time being, I'm gonna be here for a little bit. But first of all, thank you for inviting me for this. Very thrilled to be part of this, and it's been pretty quiet, but it is what it is right now.
And, I couldn't think of a better person to hop on this call with us as obviously the director of amateur scouting. So you're going to be in charge of really helping to shape that first Kraken team and the teams down the road. But the man that you're going to be working very, very closely with is also on the line with us right now, the general manager of your Seattle Kraken, Ron Francis. Ron, thank you again for making the time to join us here this evening. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Everett. Thanks
for having me. You. And we just asked introduce Robert to everybody and his role as director of amateur scouting. And I think you popped on here at the perfect time because obviously you're building out this staff. You've made a number of great hires in the scouting department, in the equipment department, in the strength and conditioning, athletic training department. When you're looking at building your staffs and your teams out, what are some of the things you're looking for in terms of the people you hire, in terms of the character of those guys? I know you're a big character person as well. As you're building these teams, what are some of the subtle nuances that you look for in the folks you're hiring?
Well, I think the big thing is we get to build this thing from the ground up, right? So we get a chance to hopefully get it right. And for me, you want good people. I mean, you want people that are good at what their job asks them to do and what it entails. But I think it's really important to get people that understand what we're trying to do here and that are willing to put the team first and not concerned about their own sort of praise or credit or ego. It's all about what we can do together rather than I personally. So we feel we've got a lot of really good people we've added to the staff, and we're excited to continue building this thing the right way.
You mentioned building from the ground up, and I want to start with you, and then this is a perfect segue into Robert here in a second. But having been in the NHL in numerous administrative capacities and front office capacities before, how are the challenges different from what you experienced in Carolina, let's say, to now what you're doing here in Seattle, starting from essentially a startup? You have to build the team. You have to go out and scout your staffs and the people that you want to work with on a daily basis. How has that process been for you, and what are some of those challenges that you've overcome, and maybe some of the things that you weren't expecting but kind of reared an ugly head, so to speak, during this whole process?
Well, I'm not sure it reared an ugly head, but there's a lot of things I think going into it. Maybe you don't realize are going to come down the pipeline. It's been really exciting from day one to be involved in the designing of the brand and in those discussions and meeting and watching that launch happen. Todd Lewicki has been great and sort of making this all inclusive. So you get to sit in a lot of different things that maybe coming into an existing situation you wouldn't be a part of. It's been exciting. It's been interesting. You design you sort of get your space and say this is your footage for your locker room, and then you got to kind of design it and how you want it to be and the equipment space and the training space and the medical space and everything else. And you kind of get it to where you're perfect and sign off on it. And then a week later, you get another call saying, well, what color carpet do you want? What color tile do you want? What kind of light fixtures do you want? And it's not really things you think about every day as a GM, because usually those things are in place. But, it's really cool to be a part of this and really exciting to go through it. And, it'll be here quicker than we can imagine.
So what moment are you looking forward to most for 2021? De'Ara wants to know what moment you're looking forward to. Is it picking the right carpet color and the different decals on the wall, or is there something a little bigger and better that you're looking forward to kicking this thing off?
Yeah, no, I think for me, it's getting to puck drop on opening night, having a full building and everything I've heard about the fans in Seattle and watched on TV, just their support and I can't wait to get inside that brand new spanking building and see the energy and the excitement from our fans and watch our team take to the ice as a 32nd franchise. So really excited about that happening.
General Manager Ron Francis, Robert Cron, Director of Amateur Scouting, joining us here on our Fansgiving, our second Fansgiving here for your Seattle Kraken. And Robert, I think Ron alluded to being able to build something from scratch. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for you to just take us through your process. Obviously, now we're going through COVID, and there is a lot of different issues being able to scout in person versus remotely. You've had some college leagues, some junior leagues start to play. What are some of the things that you're doing in trying to make sure that you are as up and engaged in the latest scouting trends and the latest players, even though that you may not be able to go to all of these college rinks and these junior rinks, you're still going to be prepared when it comes time for that first draft next summer?
Yeah, obviously this is not your typical year with this situation, and but it's the same for everybody. So all teams are doing it. So we approach it like we would any other season, except that we can't get too many rinks right now. So we're trying to utilize all the technology available to us, which is video analytics and everything that we have in our disposal. There's some leagues that are playing. We do have guys in Europe that are able to watch live games, so we're getting a really good feedback from them. Like you mentioned, college and the USHL, are trying to get going. I was actually able to go see a live game last week, and so with Michigan play. So it was good to get to the rink. But yeah, we're pretty much video heavy right now, and we have a really experienced staff, and the guys that that work with us, they know all these guys from last year. So we do have knowledge. We just need to kind of go and work backwards a little bit.
That brings you to my next question. I mean, how has that transition been going? Have you had a chance to talk to the staff? And we just talked to Namita and Tim, who are going to be working heavily on the video side, on the analytical side. Have you talked to a lot of the support staff and your other scouting counterparts here in the organization to get that plan going here as we inch closer to next summer?
Absolutely. We're in constant contact with Namita and Alexandra, and I talk to my guys daily. I talk with Ron and everybody, and we're trying to get organized. And like I said, the approach is we're out there scouting live, except we're just watching TV right now. But try to talk to everyone and learn something from everyone. And like I said, everyone's chipping in. I think it's shaping up to be pretty good.
Robert Cron, Ron Francis joining us here on our virtual Fansgiving. And Ron, I think that you have had an opportunity to really see this brand grow. And you've had an opportunity to really see the impact that the Kraken have had and the excitement for this team. When you turn on the TV every day, when you're on social and on the internet and reading up all the stories, how does it make you feel knowing that you're a part of something special here? You're seeing all the fans. We've got so many comments coming in from all over America, all over the world, watching this broadcast right now. How does it feel to know that you're playing a part in getting this thing off the ground? And what pride do you take in seeing that reach extend so far?
Well, I mean, there's so many different parts to it, right? It's at times it's kind of overwhelming, but I think I and a lot of people in the organization feel very fortunate. We've got a great bunch of owners, starting at the top with David Bonderman. Todd Lewicki's done a nice job, and all the people that we're working with. Everybody is really doing an incredible job under some really, really tough circumstances. Yeah. So, it's exciting to be a part of that. You don't get to build a franchise from the ground up very often. I mean, this may be the last one we see in professional NHL hockey in my lifetime. So who knows? It's exciting to certainly be a part of that and doing everything we possibly can to get it right for our fans and the people of Seattle and the Pacific Northwest.
So, Ron, we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I want to wrap this up here with you because I found out a very interesting fact about you. You were quite the wine connoisseur, which I really respect. What's your favorite wine? What is Ron Francis drinking at the end of the night to wind down for the game or from the day? And do you have any recommendations for what our fans can put on their Thanksgiving table?
Well, I'm going to get myself in a little bit of trouble here, but I grew up. My mother was Italian. I grew up. My hometown was 85% Italian. My grandfather made his own wine in the basement, so I was kind of brought up on Italian wines, and that's kind of probably my first choice. There's so many good ones. Gaia and Sassicaia and Antinori make some great wines. Celaya and Tignanello, but I understand there's some really good wines in Washington State, and I look forward to getting out there and dabbling in some of the good red in that part of the country as well. But to me, the beauty of wine is you get together at dinner, and usually when dinner's done, everybody's in a hurry to scatter, get the dishes, and move on. But if you have a nice bottle of wine, people tend to sit around and enjoy each other's company and have a little longer conversation. And to me, that's what I love about it, just sort of being able to socialize with other people and spend time over a glass of wine and some good food.
Well, gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on our virtual Fansgiving. I know it's a little bit late there in the East, so thanks so much for taking a few minutes of your Friday evening. Happy Thanksgiving to you both. Looking forward to seeing some great news pop here over the next few months in regards to that scouting plan as we inch closer to the inaugural season. Guys, thanks again so much for the time.
Thanks, Everett. My pleasure. Thanksgiving to you and your family, and happy Thanksgiving to all our fans as well next week.
Thank you. All right. That was the general manager of your Seattle Kraken, Ron Francis, and the new director of amateur scouting, Robert Cron. We're going to pop out of here one last time. That Kraken Crisp is smelling fantastic. The kitchen has not burned down yet, so I'm thinking it's pretty good. We'll check on that in a minute. But first, Hockey Fights Cancer is celebrating another fantastic month across the NHL. Take a look at ways you can get involved to help fight this terrible disease.
Like kind of a token of appreciation because my niece had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then she went into remission. My brother was diagnosed with leukemia. So when he went into remission the first time, they wanted to give back. And so he worked at Charlie's Produce, so he had the restaurant connections, and they wanted to just drop meals off for the hospital workers. So they were doing that just out of his car, and then COVID hit. And kind of saw an opportunity to scale it up.
In the day in the life of a nurse, being at the bedside, it's very rewarding for our staff. And to be able to take time out and take a nice break and enjoy a nice meal that's been provided from our community, from our sports teams, from families, it's a nice way to restore yourself so you're able to continue on with the rest of your shift.
The patience, it's you have to remind yourself of those good days sometimes. Know the reason why we're here is to help our patients. And anytime you can make their day a little bit better, your day's a little bit better.
Oven, and before we taste it, it looks really, really good. It smells really, really good as well. We have a couple of birthday shout outs first here from the Seattle Kraken. Cam Rizzardini, happy birthday, man. Hopefully that you are having a good birthday here on this virtual Fansgiving. And I mentioned it earlier in the show that today is also Mama Fitz's birthday. It's my mother's birthday. And I really, really hope that I did my mom's cooking teaching some justice by making this Kraken Crisp. So we have it fresh out of the oven, not too hot. That's what it's supposed to look like a really good blueberry berry cobbler. So I'm going to grab a spoon. You can add some ice cream to this. You can add some whipped cream. We're just going to dive in because it's my house and I do what I want. So we'll just dive into that. Oh, that's a nice little crunch there. All right. That's actually not bad. All right. Okay, Mom, you can be proud of me. I did a good job. I followed the directions, and I'm going to go get a taste of that perfect storm to wash this down with. It's really, really good in the mouth. Good mouthfeel. I like that. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining us here today on our virtual Fansgiving. I want to thank Nate Brookerson, the head strength and conditioning coach for your Seattle Kraken, for helping us make that delicious Kraken crisp that I'm still eating right now. Mike Bowie, Tim Ohashi, thank you so much for joining us as well. Namita Nandakumar from our senior analytic department, thank you again for taking the time. And of course, Ron Francis and Robert Cron joining us here as well. Excuse me, as well, the beauty of live TV. So again, Kraken fans, thank you guys so much for joining us here. Happy Thanksgiving. We hope that you have a safe Thanksgiving. Continue to mask up. Head to the Kraken website, find out how you can get your hands on one of these good masks. Everett Fitzhugh saying so long. We'll talk to you soon.